So Hillary Clinton goes on The View yesterday, and she starts, this is amazing. It's just incredible. Here she is talking about how it's terrifying, the fact that Donald Trump was keeping classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. Terrifying. Here we go.
This should be taken really seriously, and it's not a joking matter.
And it shouldn't be partisan.
No. And it shouldn't be partisan. No. It should concern every American, because those documents in the empty folders, as they were marked, suggest that there was really important secret information that is essential to our country's defense and security. And when the report came out yesterday that the documents also included information about, we don't know which, an ally or an adversary's nuclear program, I cannot tell you how terrifying that is.
Yeah, I'm sure she was super terrified. She looks terrified. She looks absolutely terrified, Hillary Clinton. By the way, I've noticed that, when those documents did not actually leak into View is when they were in Donald Trump's closet. When they did leak into View, the minute the FBI grabbed them and leaked them to the Washington Post. So there was that. What was more terrifying, the fact that they were in his closet or the fact that it was now on the front page of the Washington Post? Pretty incredible stuff there. Hillary continues along these lines. So people die to get government information. I mean, people also die at U.S. embassies that you failed to defend, but lots of people die, as it turns out. Mysteriously. Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill him. Anyway, here's Hillary.
We don't have yet an understanding of what was in them. We're getting little dribs and drabs, like the nuclear posture of an ally or an adversary. But people literally die to get our government information. They go to prison. Yeah. They get exiled. It's dangerous oftentimes. And the idea that this would have been done, I hope everybody takes really seriously. It is not some casual, try to come up with some, throwaway.
It's not like an overdue library book.
No, not like an overdue library book.
I mean, what you should do with classified information is keep it on your private server, and then when you're asked to turn over that private server, you should probably bleach bit the thing. Maybe drill some holes in it. That's probably what you should do. Hillary Clinton, by the way, is still out there claiming she had 0 classified emails on her server, despite the fact that a 2018 Inspector General report found 193 emails that were classified sent to or from Hillary Clinton's server. So again, the merger of celebrity and politics, it results in bad celebrities and bad politics. Shocker. Well, this culminates in AOC. Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez is a difference in degree, but not in kind, from Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. She's essentially their sort of imagistic third-generation child. That's what she is. She is a celebrity influencer who is in Congress. She doesn't do anything useful in Congress. She doesn't actually sponsor serious legislation. People laugh at her legislation because it's stupid. She does Instagram clips. And she's on the cover of GQ this week. She's on the cover of GQ. Now, she's extraordinarily radical. She hobnobs with anti-Semites and backs their play. She is a socialist through and through, identifies as such. And she is the future of the Democratic Party, according to GQ. And this is like a perfect confluence, this article. It's also written by Wesley Lowery, who used to write for the Washington Post until they said, you're so openly partisan, you can't be a reporter. And he's like, of course I'm openly partisan. That's called truth. So now he's writing the profile piece on Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez. And the entire piece is about what a victim she is. She's a super giant victim, you see, who's using Congress as a platform for her to be on the cover of GQ. GQ is a fashion magazine. GQ stands for Gentleman's Quarterly. Okay, so does this have to do with politics or does this have to do with image making? She is the apex predator when it comes to the merger of celebrity and politics. Let me read again the preconditions to the destruction of American institutions from Yuval Levin, right? Here are the elements. You ready? The lure of cynical distance and of playing the outsider. That is literally her entire shtick. I'm an outsider. I have to lead a movement. The systems of politics are too confining for me. The celebrity of culture. People using the institutions not as molds that ought to shape their behavior, but as platforms that allow them greater individual exposure and enable them to hone their personal brands. There's nothing that says personal brand more than being on the cover of GQ in very expensive clothing. So she put out on her Instagram this statement, quote, "I'm back after some rest time." She was gone? Really? I didn't even know, because she's so unbelievably ubiquitous. To tackle the issue of gender and politics, GQ decided to take some big risks. So risky, so brave, so gutsy. It's such a big risk to put AOC on the cover of a magazine. No one's ever thought to do that before. But why do Republicans care? Why do you keep talking? Because they keep putting her on magazine covers despite her zero legislative accomplishments and her idiotic Instagram page videos where she sticks her face in a bowl of ice. That's why. You're the ones who elevate her and put her on magazine covers. Me pointing out that she's on a magazine cover is not me starting the issue. It's you starting the issue. You make her an icon, and then when I point out that you've made a bubblehead an icon, then suddenly you're like, wow, you can't notice that. Why are you noticing that? Is this singularly unintelligent and unimpressive legislator? She says, to tackle the issue of gender in politics, GQ decided to take some big risks and feature their first female politician on their cover, interviewed by one of the most prominent young black male journalists and top journalist, period, of our time, Wesley Lowery, who again was kicked out of major publications for being a biased left-winger, with two legendary trans icons photographing and styling the images. Wow. Well, I mean, huge news, guys. They're not just trans people. They are trans icons who photographed and styled her, so many people to serve the celebrity. The fight to restore abortion rights needs more than a few good men and a lot of good work ahead. So men, let's talk. And the article itself is just a fawning piece of absolute tripe. It's amazing. Like, it doesn't even pretend at anything other than utter worship. And yesterday, we spent a bit of time on this show talking about an article in Vogue about Jennifer Lawrence. It's the same article. It's the same article. Right? Jennifer Lawrence talking about politics. Is AOC talking about politics? They are the same. Is Meghan Markle talking about politics? There's no difference between GQ featuring AOC and The Cut featuring Meghan Markle and Vogue featuring Jennifer Lawrence. They're all part of the same celebrity clique. That is who they are. Pretending that this is serious politics is a lie. These are not serious people. They do not think 2 steps ahead. They do not have the interests of the American people at heart. What they have at heart is being on the cover of GQ. What they have at heart is being celebrities. And pretending that there's a difference in kind between Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, AOC, Jennifer Lawrence, Meghan Markle. It's just not true, which is why Meghan Markle thinks maybe she should run for office someday, despite the fact that her entire political resume is, I was a B-list actress on Suits, and then I married into a royal family that I crapped upon. There's no difference between her and AOC. The same. The same. In terms of politics, in terms of image, these are all part of a piece. This is not the way politics was supposed to work. Politics was supposed to be a boring business for lawyers who basically put together legislation to tinker around the edges of our civilization. It was not meant to be a bunch of people who get very famous and very, very rich off of the institutions that have created the ability for Americans to be free. That is not what these institutions were built for. So Wesley Lowery has this entire fawning piece. And implicit in this entire piece are all of the Yuval Levin warnings. All of them. A person who's outside the system, who yells about the system, who believes the system is bad. A person who makes it her personal mission to use the system as a platform for her own celebrity. Quote, for her first 2 years in Washington, Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez walked the few blocks from her apartment to her congressional office nearly every morning, a routine she felt forced to change after a treasonous mob stormed the Capitol. Now she drives most days, a comically short commute she considers a necessary safety precaution. No comment on the fact that she parks her Tesla outside of Whole Foods. But for some reason, she's not quite sure why. The Congresswoman decided to walk to work on what would become Washington's most tumultuous morning since the insurrection. She's not quite sure why. Everyone knew Roe versus Wade was coming down that day. Maybe it was that. But, says the completely credulous Wesley Lowery, no, it was all a coincidence. As she reached the Capitol grounds on June 24th, a group of men stopped her for a photo. I said, hello, and how are you all doing, she'd recall later. They're like, well, you've definitely been a lot better given this morning. This was how the Congresswoman learned that the Supreme Court had gutted the constitutional right to abortion established by Roe versus Wade. The ruling had been anticipated for weeks after a draft opinion from the court's conservative faction leaked, but somehow much of Washington still managed to appear blindsided. Out on the steps of the Capitol, a group of lawmakers gathered to sing God Bless America, a pre-planned photo op that now read as hopelessly out of touch. Angry Americans were spilling into the streets, and elected Democrats were singing campfire songs. Ocasio-Cortez knew where she needed to be. It wasn't at a sing-along. So she went to a protest, right? She didn't need to be at Congress putting together legislation to fix what she perceived as a problem. Nope. She needed to be at the Supreme Court yelling in front of the cameras. This is what celebrities do, gang. It's no different than Sean Penn arriving at a protest and speaking into a bullhorn. Sometimes people ask, oh, what's the point of protest? She told me later, recalling that day. The act of protest, she said, creates community, and participation by political leaders sends a message. It's really important for people to feel like their elected officials give a bleep about them, she said, not from on high, from on the same level. Or alternatively, it's really important for you to go where all the cameras are and stand in front of that crowd and pretend that you're one of the people who you are now living a very cush life off taxpayer money to quote unquote represent. I'd arrived at the Supreme Court a few minutes before Ocasio-Cortez, said Wesley Lowery, to interview protesters and watched as she maneuvered in her plaid pink pantsuit. It was all coincidence what she was wearing that day. A plaid pink pantsuit. Total coincidence. Past a small circle of anti-abortion demonstrators and then waded into the sea of women and men who gathered to mourn. Soon she was speaking into a borrowed megaphone, helping to lead the call and response. Into the streets, Ocasio-Cortez shouted, pumping a clenched fist in the air. Within minutes, a sobbing young woman found the congresswoman and threw herself into her arms. I'm so scared, she wept. I'm so scared. Of what? Of what? But it made for a perfect photo op for Wesley Lowery. I love that. He's criticizing the Democrats for gathering on the steps of the Capitol to sing God Bless America as a photo op. So she went to another photo op. And she's shouting into the streets. Wait, aren't you an elected representative in the most powerful legislative body in world history? Shouldn't you be doing that? Why are you out there shouting into the streets? Because again, it's not about getting things done. It's not about politics. It's about platform building. That's all it's about. The institutions are the enemy. Did you know that every single like creates one additional leftist tier? That is just science.